Okay, so now that you've had a chance to watch that awesome video, let's talk about some of these relationships. So in the video, it talked about how there's lots and lots of bacterial cells living on your skin and in you. And the great majority of those bacterial cells are mutualistic, meaning that they benefit you and you provide them a habitat. And in fact, a lot of them are there as direct competition for the bad stuff that might be there. That's why when we take antibiotics and we wipe them out, it can cause a lot of problems because it opens up real estate for the bad bacteria or fungus to come in and set up shop. And so for the great majority of bacterial cells, it is a mutualistic relationship. So that's that one. The second one is dust mites in us, those creepy little crawlers that are in your sheets and your bed and on you. And as they said in the video, they are sanitation engineers. So they're actually working to clean up all of the skin flakes that are falling off of us. Obviously, it's a food source for them, so they're not doing it to benefit us, but it ends up benefiting us. So it is, again, a mutualistic relationship. Now, obviously, some of us are allergic to their excrement. So if you have a dust allergy, and so in that case, it can be somewhat of a pest. It's not really a parasite. It's not living on you, but it can be a pest. But for the most part, this relationship has evolved because it is mutualistic. Yeast in us. This is a gross picture. This is thrush, or a yeast infection in your mouth. Most yeast, actually, we do have yeast that live in and on us and are part of the microbiome, but some of the yeast can be parasitic, and oftentimes they are. And thrush often happens when you're on antibiotics and you've wiped out the bacteria that are normally living in your mouth, and then the thrush takes hold. So most yeast that we notice are parasitic to us. Yeast and bacteria, this is an interesting one. So yeast and bacteria both compete for the same resources. So like an orange, for instance, in your fridge, if you've ever noticed an orange get old, sometimes it gets all mushy and brown, and sometimes it goes green. So if it goes mushy and brown, that generally means that the bacteria got to it first. If it goes green, that means that the mold or the fungus, the yeast, got to it first. And so yeast and bacteria often directly compete. So fungus, yeast, and other fungi will exude a chemical that kills off bacteria. We actually use that chemical. It's called an antibiotic. It's created by yeast and fungus that competes directly with their competitors, which are bacteria, and we simply just eat it, which is kind of gross. But that's the relationship there is mostly competition. And then the last question in this section asks about coevolution. So you can see this hummingbird here that's co-evolved the perfect beak to get to the nectar of this flower, which is co-evolved this perfect shape in order for the hummingbird to get the nectar. And so coevolution happens in a lot of these symbiotic relationships. The only one that wouldn't is commensalism, right? When we talk about commensalism, we know that only one of the organisms is actually feeling a benefit. The other one has no relationship, and so you don't generally see coevolution. In fact, researchers have often debated whether commensalism is a true symbiotic relationship, since one of the organisms is not actually involved. Okay, so that should answer those questions for you. Let's move on to the next ones.